Ladies and gentlemen, far from being lambs led to the slaughter, Israel's soldiers have fought back with incredible courage and with heroic sacrifice. And I have another message for the world outside this hall. We are winning!
Israel is considered one of the most powerful countries in the world today. One of the most astonishing facts about Israel is that in the last 50 years, it has fought multiple wars. At different times, as many as 5 countries attacked Israel simultaneously. On all sides, the country has faced terrorist attacks, political pressure, and international boycotts. There have even been open statements from leaders in Iran threatening to wipe Israel off the map.
هذا الكيان الخبيث وقد أبقى نفسه قائما عبر ضخ أمريكا الدعم له فلن يكتب له البقاء بإذن الله تعالى. فریاد میزنند مرگ بر اسرائیل.
Despite all of this, Israel continues to survive and thrive. What makes this story even more extraordinary is that Israel does not possess the typical advantages of powerful nations. It does not have a massive army like China, nor does it have a huge population like India. Geographically, it does not possess vast oil reserves like Saudi Arabia, and it lacks abundant natural resources. In fact, when Israel gained independence in 1948, the country faced severe shortages. Even water was scarce. At that time, the Israeli government limited water consumption to just 10 liters per person per day. Looking at Israel in 1948, many observers believed that if the country could simply survive as a poor developing nation, it would already be considered a success. But the reality today is very different. Israel has become so technologically advanced that major countries like India, United States, and China rely on Israeli technology. Israel exports weapons and defense systems to many parts of the world and is widely recognized as one of the most powerful nations globally. Israeli leaders have often sent a clear message to their enemies: if you strike us, we will strike back. There is no place on earth where the long arm of Israel cannot reach. Israel is also famously known as the startup nation because of the large number of successful technology companies that have emerged from the country. This raises an important question: how did a small country with limited water, limited labor, no oil reserves, and almost no natural resources become one of the most powerful nations in the world? What strategies did Israel use to transform itself from a nation constantly fighting wars into a global technology powerhouse? And what lessons can other countries learn from Israel's rise? The story begins on May 14th, 1948, when Israel officially declared independence. But the very next day, yes, the very next day, Israel was attacked by 5 countries at once. These countries were Egypt, Syria, Jordan, Iraq, and Lebanon. Thousands of tanks and soldiers surrounded Israeli territory. At that time, Israel was extremely poor and possessed only a few outdated planes and weapons, some of which had been sent earlier by Joseph Stalin. Naturally, most people around the world assumed that the Arab armies would easily destroy Israel, but something unexpected happened. The Israelis not only defended themselves, but also managed to defeat the invading armies and capture additional territories. How did they manage to do this? The answer lies in strategy and psychology. During the war, Israeli forces eventually ran out of bombs and artillery. At that critical moment, a soldier came up with an unusual idea. He suggested using seltzer bottles. Glass bottles normally used to store soda. When dropped from high altitudes, these bottles created a loud whistling sound that resembled bombs falling. Israeli forces collected thousands of these bottles from across the country, loaded them onto aircraft, and dropped them over enemy positions. The terrifying sound convinced enemy soldiers that they were being heavily bombed. Many of them panicked and retreated. Israel also used another weapon called the Davidka mortar. Although it was not very powerful, it produced an extremely loud explosion. The noise was so frightening that many enemy soldiers believed Israel possessed powerful secret weapons. Some even believed Israel had atomic bombs. Fear and confusion spread quickly among the attacking forces. Another major problem for the Arab armies was their lack of coordination. When one unit began retreating in panic, others became confused and followed. Through clever psychological tactics, Israel managed to defend itself even without sufficient weapons. Israel later built one of the most effective intelligence agencies in the world, known as Mossad. One of Mossad's most famous spies was Eli Cohen. Israel sent Cohen to Syria disguised as a wealthy businessman. He hosted lavish parties and gradually built strong relationships with Syrian military leaders. His connections became so strong that Syrian officials were reportedly considering appointing him as deputy defense minister. While maintaining his cover, Cohen secretly gathered critical intelligence. At one point, he visited Syrian military positions along the border and noticed that soldiers were stationed in extremely hot conditions with little shade. Pretending to help them, he suggested planting eucalyptus trees so soldiers could rest while monitoring Israeli territory. The Syrian military agreed. But those same trees later became perfect markers for Israeli forces. Whenever Israeli pilots saw eucalyptus trees along the border, they knew exactly where Syrian military positions were located. Soon afterward, Israel launched precise attacks on those locations and destroyed the Syrian outposts. This was the power of intelligence. Through spies and intelligence networks, Israel often learned about threats before they fully developed. However, military strength alone cannot build a powerful nation. Wars are extremely expensive. In the early years, Israel received financial support from several sources. After the Holocaust, Jewish communities around the world donated money to support the new nation. Israel also received significant reparations from West Germany. The United States also provided substantial financial aid. But financial assistance alone cannot explain Israel's success. Many countries receive aid but remain poor. The real difference was how Israel used that money. The secret lies in Israel's education system. Unlike many countries where students focus primarily on memorization and exam scores, Israeli education emphasizes problem solving and innovation. Engineering students are encouraged to develop solutions to real-world challenges such as water scarcity, agriculture, defense technology, and medical problems. This mindset produced remarkable inventions. For example, Israeli engineer Simcha Blas invented drip irrigation, a revolutionary agricultural technique that allows crops to grow using far less water. Today, this technology is used worldwide. Israel also developed advanced defense technologies such as the Iron Dome, which intercepts incoming rockets. Another breakthrough came from Israeli company Mobileye, which created advanced driver assistance technology used in modern self-driving cars. The company was later acquired by Intel for billions of dollars. Another major turning point occurred in 1990 after the collapse of the Soviet Union. Nearly 1 million Jewish immigrants moved from the former Soviet Union to Israel. Many of them were highly educated scientists, engineers, mathematicians, and doctors. Suddenly, Israel gained one of the most highly educated workforces in the world. However, because of ongoing wars and regional instability, many foreign investors were hesitant to invest in Israel. To solve this problem, the Israeli government launched a groundbreaking program in 1993 called the Yozma Fund. The idea was simple but powerful. If foreign investors invested 60% of the money required for a startup, the Israeli government would invest the remaining 40%. Even more attractive was the final condition. If the startup succeeded, investors could buy the government's share later at the original price, allowing them to keep most of the profits. This deal dramatically reduced risk for investors. As a result, venture capitalists from the United States, Europe, and Japan rushed to invest in Israeli startups. Through this program, more than 160 startups received funding, many of which later became highly successful global companies. This initiative helped transform Israel into the innovation powerhouse we see today. That is why Israel is now widely known as the startup nation. Israel's story teaches several important lessons. First, in geopolitics, nations must build their own strength. Power commands respect. Second, human capital is the most valuable resource a country can possess. Investing in education and talent is the foundation of long-term success. Third, countries must develop technological leverage, innovations that make the world depend on them. From a small nation struggling for survival in 1948, Israel transformed itself into a global leader in technology, intelligence, and defense. And that is the remarkable story of how Israel became one of the most powerful nations in the modern world.